So, three of the Jackson children, including Janet Jackson, had politely declined to be portrayed in this movie for reasons they've yet to specify, but none of those three are among the Jackson Five. Must have been a big phew moment for writer John Logan, because what if they were? The name in the movie would have to be changed to the Jackson Pair, right? Michael is directed by Anton Fuqua, depicting the early life of the king of pop, Michael Jackson, from his childhood, or lack thereof, to the mid-1980s when he emerged as possibly the biggest musical superstar on the planet. To start by giving you some of my background, I was not always a fan of Michael Jackson. I did like some of his songs, but I didn't really care for his voice, and I found his effeminate appearance rather off-putting, and when I heard of his passing, I really wasn't affected by it. The point I did become a fan is when I realized how tragically misunderstood of a man he was and everything that he had been put through in his life. From having fame thrust on him at young age, to dealing with tabloids and extortionists who tried twisting his love for children into something that it wasn't. And from there I watched more of his music videos, and he's got to be the greatest dancer I've ever seen. For my money, Smooth Criminal is his opus. So when a film about his life was announced to be in the works, I was pretty jazzed, especially with the knowledge that the Jackson family was heavily involved. Yes, that naturally means that the movie would be biased in Michael's favor, but hey, the Jacksons have the truth on their side, so that bias comes in handy. Starring as the King of Pop is the man's nephew, Jafar Jackson, and he gets the job done. He's perfectly functional in the lead role. He was amazing! From his looks, to his voice, to his mannerisms, and his dance skills, it is incredible how well he got every single trait of his uncle down. When he's in the recording studio with Quincy Jones, the way Jafar replicates those little signature vocalizations of Michael's, I was just mouth wide open, shaking my head in disbelief. And after a while, I had just fully accepted that I was watching the real man in the flesh. I might now even be buying into all those conspiracy theories that Michael Jackson is still alive. There are some times when a song is played or performed, and the audio is, I believe, a recording of the real Michael, but emphasis on the word believe, because Jafar is so flawlessly convincing that I think they can get away with using some real audio. I can say much the same about young Giuliano Valdi, who plays Michael as a kid in the film's first 20 minutes or so. He too has the looks, voice, and footwork needed to represent the boy's born talent. Outside of Michael himself, Coleman Domingo is outstanding as his domineering father, Joseph Jackson. He can go from jolly to bully in one short exchange. And it's Michael's harsh relationship with his father that is the cause of his inner demons for the timeline of the movie. It all starts with Michael looking out the front window to see other kids having snowball fights, but he can't join them because Joseph is forcing him to pursue greatness, even perfection. In fact, one thing I didn't know until seeing this movie is that Michael and his siblings called their father by his first name, which I guess speaks to how Joseph viewed them more as employees than his children. As Michael is leading his four older brothers while performing on local stages with adults tossing coins at him, I felt pretty much the same way I do when I'm listening to the Jackson 5 on Spotify. Knowing what was going on with Michael behind the scenes, I'm getting into the groove while feeling sad inside. Even during Michael's adult years, there were scenes between him and his father that had me on edge, wondering what kind of a response the conversation would elicit from Joseph. The movie is a great study of the complex person Michael was, shedding light on the anxieties that his father instilled in him as a kid that lasted well into adulthood, how he was led to believe that perfection required getting surgery to thin out the big nose that Joseph berated him for having. And even though the movie's timeline ends before some of the most interesting parts of Michael's life, it does include a few important details, like his fascination with Peter Pan as a child, and his exhibiting of age regression as an adult, which plant some seeds for understanding those aspects of Michael's life that are likely to be explored in the upcoming sequel. Speaking of which, in January of last year, a report surfaced that the reason this movie got delayed is because it originally had a whole third act that dramatized the 1993 CSA case, in which Evan Chandler, an extortionist fiend, coerced his son Jordy into making those heinous claims against Michael. I have no hesitation in saying that is the undeniable truth of what happened.
This man is going to be humiliated beyond belief.
Yeah.
He will not believe it. He will not believe what's going to happen to him.
Yeah.
Beyond his worst nightmares. Sell one more record. If I go through with this, I win big time. I will get everything I want, and they will be destroyed forever. They will be destroyed. June is going to lose Jordy. She will have no right to ever see him again.
Yeah.
That's fact, Dave. That's what's
Does that help?
Michael's career will be over.
Does that help Jordy?
Michael's career will be over.
And does that help Jordy?
It's irrelevant to me.
Does that help Jordy?
It's irrelevant to me.
This third act, however, was rendered unusable because Jackson Estate lawyers pointed out a clause in the case's settlement that forbid Jordy Chandler from being portrayed in any capacity. For a good while, I was extremely skeptical about the legitimacy of this report. It came across to me as just more of the kind of tabloid junk that has routinely surrounded Michael Jackson. And just because you read it in a magazine or see it on a TV screen, don't make it factual. However, it turns out this report was indeed true. As the release date drew near, the cast and crew started talking about it, with Anton Fuqua even detailing a sequence they shot where police raid the Neverland Ranch, stripping Michael down naked and treating him like an animal. So some reshoots were done, I presume to rejig a few things so that this 2/3 of the movie they had felt like a complete story, with the emotional climax now being the 1984 Pepsi accident and its aftermath. And I gotta say, they worked around the issue quite seamlessly, because there is this one whole overarching objective throughout the movie's timeline. It's ultimately about Michael trying to release himself from his father's iron grip and have the freedom to do his own thing without him breathing down his neck all the time. So the rumor was true that this movie ends with Michael making his surprise announcement that he's parting from the Jackson 5. And I really like the transition between the last two performances. Michael exits the stage, leaves Joseph in disgusted bewilderment, and with the way it's edited, it's as if he walks directly onto another stage during the Bad Tour, even though it's a few years later. And you know how when a band finishes a concert, and after a few minutes they might come back onto the stage for an extra song as a final thank you to the audience? The additional performance of Bad at the end of this movie is kind of like that for us in the audience. And during that final performance, the crowd at the screening I attended raised the styrofoam lights we were given and waved them like it was a real concert. It was pure movie theater magic. The only thing I had any apprehension about before seeing the movie was if it would rely too much on musical montages for storytelling, but there are only a couple in the first act. Beyond that, the musical scenes and the drama scenes are mostly kept to themselves and are very well organized. The storytelling only slows down some when Michael works on his solo album Thriller. During this time, we get the making of the music videos for that title track, as well as Beat It, in which he brought gang members from both the Bloods and the Crips together to star. And I totally get it, it would be crazy not to include the making of such famous music videos as Beat It and Thriller are, but the movie does spend a little more time in those scenes than it needs to. Overall, though, I had such a great time with Michael, and I eagerly await the sequel that is officially in the works. Apparently, with the unused footage that is still salvageable from that first cut, they have about 30% of the sequel already finished, and we have at least a few ideas of what's in it. Some time ago, Kat Graham had been cast as Diana Ross, and she's not in this first movie, and the first footage that anyone saw of Michael was at CinemaCon 2 years ago. Those who saw it reported that the prominent song in that footage was Man in the Mirror, and that song is not featured in this movie, as it ends before that song was released. Also, Miles Teller, who plays Michael's lawyer John Branca, spoke about how they filmed some scenes on location at Neverland Ranch and had the place redecorated for the movie. And again, the final cut ends before the Neverland years. Since they can't legally do a deep dramatization of the 1993 case, I'm guessing the next movie will instead deal with the 2005 trial, which is the one that Michael fought through and won. And if so, the sequel is likely going to be the more important movie. But honestly, even if we weren't getting that sequel, this film on its own is still a totally satisfying experience and a phenomenal portrayal of the King of Pop. All the same, bring on the sequel. Don't stop till we get enough. Scoring on the Factor Facts, I reward Michael with a 90%. That's a wrap. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this review helpful. Like and share, click over here for similar content, and subscribe for all of it. This is Pop Culture. I'm Alex Pop.